You're listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies. And today, my guest is writer-director Brian Skiba. And we're going to be talking about his brand new, exciting film entitled Pursuit. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Hello, Jan. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. All right. This is a ride. This movie is a ride from beginning to end.
Yeah. Great.
It captures you immediately and doesn't let you go until the very end. So it's a very exciting film. So our audience knows what this film is about. Why don't you give us the synopsis of Pursuit?
It's about a hacker whose wife's gone missing, and he's on the search to find his wife. And he's a bad guy, so he gets arrested by Mike Breslin, played by Jake. And the hacker kind of manipulates situations to fit his means, what he wants to do, and he ends up going back to his hometown in Arkansas, and that's where he's abducted, and Mike Breslin has to hunt him down to try to get him back.
I know it's a caper within a caper within a caper.
Yeah.
One thing on top of another in this film. You've got you wrote this, so I always am interested in where ideas come from. Where did this idea come from for you?
Well, I can't take full credit. I came in a late stage and just did just enough to qualify for a credit. It was actually the brainchild of Andrew Stevens. So Andrew Stevens, producer, actor, mentor of mine. He did the Walking Tall series, and he wanted to do something in that genre. So he and Don Burstein and Ben Fiore, they crafted this script that I then came in and with producer oversight, did a little bit of a draft on it, and then from there it was actors notes and things like that I was getting. So I can't take full credit for it, but I definitely had my 2 cents in there for sure.
Well, well, it is, as I said, a very exciting movie. You've got a really great cast. Let's talk about that because John Cusack is one of my favorites. I love him and everything he does. And this is a little different role for John in this. And Emile Hirsch is very different in this particular role too. So let's talk about the casting of this film.
Yeah, it was interesting because John came on really early. He was the first one to come in. John is very active in the scripts. He gives notes. We would go through it. We would read lines, talk about it. He's very deep, and he wanted to create a different type of action film, and not, because he gets a lot of offers, and I don't think he wanted this action film to fall into that genre of it just being a musclehead action film. The way he pitched it was always this is an indie action, where it's got, like you say, it's got lots of layers, lots of stories. It's not just a straight through line, which makes it interesting. And so John was very active in that aspect, and he helped craft his character and those moments. He wanted to say stuff without saying it. That was one of the big things he wanted to do. Emile Hirsch, he was, he came in, and Rick had already been established as a hacker. He already had kind of a disorder where he doesn't feel emotion. And so Emile just took that and ran with it. He's like, let's put face tattoos on. And I was like, oh man, tattoos on an actor. I don't face tattoo. All right. If that's, most actors, if I said, let's put face tattoos on, they'd be like, no way, man, don't touch my face. But he wanted something different. I think he wanted to step outside the usual roles that he gets. He's very much a character actor. Fantastic. I mean, he comes in, he knows his lines, an absolute pro. And then we have Jake Manley, who plays Mike Breslin. Again, Breslin was a character that, we didn't want to stereotype. We didn't want to put in, a reacher, a big 6-foot guy that's just going to kick everybody's butt. I wanted this film to feel more real, more realism to it, as opposed to, surrealism. So we went with a young kid, and I felt like that was also done to kind of attract the younger crowd, to this film. And then we have Elizabeth Ludlow from Peacemaker, who's fantastic. She's just an absolute star in the making. William Catt, We had a great cast, absolute great cast. It's fantastic to have everybody in this film.
Well, you do have a great cast, and Andrew, you mentioned Andrew Stevens, and he produced this, but he also has a part in this film too.
Yeah, no, he does. It's funny because I went to him. I was like, after reading the script, he was producing, and I was like, all right, so what do you want to play, Andrew? I want you in the film. Typically he doesn't like to inject himself. He's a producer now, and he's a great producer. But he does. He was a great actor back, and in his own right, done a lot of great films. Worked with some amazing directors, Brian De Palma, Fury, and things like that. So having him in the film was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So.
Yeah. Well, the film is fun. It is fun, even though as I said at the beginning, it takes you on quite a ride. Where did you film this?
We filmed in Little Rock, and then a town just outside of Little Rock called Lonoke.
Okay. So was this film prior to the pandemic or during the pandemic or after the pandemic? Oh, well, we're still in the pandemic. Anyhow.
Yeah. It was during. It was filmed during the summer of last year, so we had a real quick turnaround. Lionsgate had a release date, actually a later release date, and then they came to us and said, guys, can we release it in February? Can you get it done by then? So we really expedited our delivery.
Yeah.
It was summer of last year during the pandemic.
Wow. So how was that for you, filming during the pandemic?
Arkansas was kind of over it. I mean, it was like I live in Los Angeles, and everybody here is still masked and distancing and all this other stuff. We flew into Arkansas, and the first night I'm there with Andrew, he and I go to a restaurant, and like everybody's in a tight packed line, nobody's wearing a mask, and I was just like, okay, this is a little culture shock at first, but then you realize that's just their. I think everybody was a little different, and we were there when Delta exploded, and it just happened that Little Rock was the hot spot.
Oh no.
It was like, all right. So we isolated as a crew. We kept our masks on, and we did all right. We pulled out without unscathed, fortunately.
Well, nowadays, I see in the credits they have to have, it's the COVID protocol team, whatever they're calling it, but I see that very often in the credits. Did you have that on this film?
Oh yeah. We had a compliance officer. Yeah, we had two of them, and so and yeah, I mean, it's just all the films I've done since COVID's come out, we have that position, and they make sure everybody's wearing masks. They make sure the testing's done. I think until recently we were testing almost every other day. So it's important because you have actors without masks on, and if one of them does get sick and God forbid actually passes away, that would be tragic. So.
Yes. Very, very, very. What was the most difficult part of filming this? And how long was your shoot?
We had 15 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really fast shoot. I only had Emile and John for 3 days. That was probably the most difficult part. Was definitely time. It's always something. Producers always come to me and ask, "What do you want more of?" It's like, I have plenty of toys. I have the tools. I have all the tools I want. It comes down to time. Give me more time so I can craft these things better. But in this day and age, time is money. So they crunch it down, and we make do. We had John days where we just filmed John and did everything. We had the Emile days, and then we went back and cleaned up whatever we had. So but yeah, it was a very fast shoot, and that's the difficulty with this level of film.
I think that would be extremely difficult to have your two leads and only have them for 3 days each.
Yeah.
In a 15-day shoot.
Yeah, it was a scheduling phenom. I mean, we pulled it off, but you just got to go. I mean, it's one of these things in indie films. I was talking to my fight coordinator. He works for Marvel a lot. He did Spider-Man and stuff like that, and he works with Christopher Nolan. And I was like, we're getting ready to do a fight. We have an hour and a half to shoot the fight. And I went to him. I was like, so how long would Marvel give you to shoot the fight? He was like, oh, we'd have 4 days for prep, 3 days to choreograph, and then we go in for a week and shoot it. And if we didn't like it, we go back for another week and shoot it. And I'm going, man, and I'm doing this in an hour and a half, So it's definitely a different world of filmmaking, but it makes you quick on your feet. So
Quite a comparison, quite a comparison in looking at how they do it and how you had to do it. So I'm sure going forward, for you, having more time would certainly be a luxury. I mean, 15, that's one of the shortest shoots I've heard for a film of this
yeah,
magnitude, actually. Yeah.
yeah, we put a lot on the screen. I mean, everything. Since release, I've gotten a little flack. People say the explosions are CGI, and I'm going, these are all real. I mean, everything we did is in camera. I mean, we packed it in 15 days, and I had a great team of stunt guys. I had a great special effects team, one of the best in the business, and we blew everything up. Every fireball you see is real. Every gunshot's real. I mean, we put it all on the camera, and we didn't fake anything. I like films that are spectacles, and I think visual effects has kind of taken that away.
Yeah. It's, we're so used to it, but now we can, when you go watch a film, you can look at it and go, oh, that's awesome. Well, we know it's some certain things have to be CGI because there'd be like, you couldn't possibly film them other than through CGI, but there's some things that don't necessarily need to be CGI, I don't think. And then you just watch it and you go, it is, it doesn't look, obviously doesn't look that real. It doesn't look that good or anything, but some can be fabulous and you have no idea whether it's CGI or not. But I think we've just all become so immune with it at this point that maybe we do think that everything is CGI that we're watching any longer.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Some people do. My explosions looked apparently so good they think they're visual effects, or So but it's all real. I mean, we did it all on camera, and
Yeah.
that way, watching a spectacle.
Yeah. And I think that makes it for you, I would think, and also for the cast, a lot better and easier to react to other than, I mean, I think it would be very hard as an actor to be acting against the green screen all the time.
Oh yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough for any kind of actor to have to just visualize. Okay, here comes a fireball at you. I mean, we have an actor that actually Joe Perez. He's a stuntman, but we had a fireball envelop him. I mean, that was the whole, and it's for real. And he's really taken the fireball, and he caught on fire, and granted, it's all special effects, or not special effect, yeah, special effects. The fireball special effects, but it's all stunts. We had them all, done up with all the proper gear and everything. And but that's kind of the fun of action films, especially this style of action film, or at least the style of films I want to make, which are, these action kind of throwbacks to the '90s when everything was in camera.
That's a very good, I hadn't thought about that, but that is exactly what this film is. It's like, yeah, throwback to an era before we were doing all of these big action films the way we are doing them now. The Marvel, not to say anything's wrong with that, because I enjoy the Marvel films and DC and all of that too. But it's nice to have films like your film that just bring you back to it almost does feel like a different a period piece in a way, compared to what we're watching. And it's nice. It's nice to be brought back to those kinds of films. That's why I like what I do, because it's all about independent films and documentaries. And I love, that's why I love talking to independent filmmakers, because it's an entirely different way of making a movie than the big blockbusters.
I've always had the mentality of if I don't have the budget to go huge like Marvel, I mean, because granted, if Marvel knocked on my door, I'm not saying no. I mean,
Right.
but if I don't have that budget, how do I achieve it and still make it look great? And that's always that's always been the challenge. And I think when you do have an action film, and you only have Marvel's catering budget to make it with, so you find ways to make it look huge and big, and practical explosions, practical effects, stunts, those kind of things. I think that's where you can succeed with those kind of things.
Yeah, and you did, and you have with this film. you're very prolific. You're doing a lot of films. You're directing quite a few things. You've got an interesting one coming up, which is the about the Golden State Killer. How did you get involved in that? Because that's the interest in that film, I would assume, in making that film had to be huge. That there's probably a lot of competition for people who want to do that film. So how did you get involved in that? And have you started shooting it, or are you just in the pre-production stages right now?
We're just in pre-production. It's the same group that produced Pursuit, same producer. So it's Andrew Stevens and Don Burstein and Alan Burstein, and Grindstone, Stan and Barry. So those are the same guys, and they came to me. I think it was in November-ish, and said, "Hey, we'd like you to direct this film." And so they're in the process of casting. It's an interesting project because he was such a despicable person. I mean, he really was a despicable person, and what he did was just absolutely horrifying. So finding actors that want to play that part has been very tough. I think that's been the challenge for that project at this point. Is we've heard a lot of agents come back to us and say, I just don't want my actor to have that kind of reputation. So they've had to switch gears and kind of make the story more about the police that caught him. There was a big movement in the police force, the development of DNA, the development of rape kits and these types of things that unfortunately, Joseph D'Angelo brought about because they were like, how do we catch this guy? Well, they had to develop all this stuff in the late 70s and 80s, and they weren't there. I mean, rape kits weren't there. DNA testing wasn't there. And so these guys that were chasing Joseph D'Angelo came up with a lot of this stuff. And so I think that's where the focus is starting to change. And so I think the story is going to go more in that direction and kind of tell the story of the police and how they did it.
I actually have to say, I think that'd be a more interesting story, to be honest with you, than just focusing on him.
Yeah.
Again, glorifying him is not what anybody wants to do, but you get enough. But I think that's the fascinating story of how they caught him after all those years. And I did not realize that they were, a lot of the things that they used to catch him were things that they ended up developing in order to catch him. So I think that's a fascinating story. The story behind the story.
Yeah, no, it really is a story behind the story, and so it'll be a great project. I mean, I think hopefully by summertime we're shooting it, but yeah, it'll be I think that'll be a really good film, all said and done.
I think so too. I think there's a lot of interest around it, for sure. Are you shooting that in California, or are you shooting it somewhere else?
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi. The tax incentives that kind of drives where these, we're doing films in the $1 to $3 million range, and so the tax incentives kind of drive those budgeted films. So
Mississippi in the summer. Oh,
yeah, I did Pursuit in the summer, so I know the feeling. I still have bug scars on my legs from all the bugs that shoot us up. So.
in Arkansas.
Oh man, the chiggers. I got chiggers and woke up one morning and my ankles were just all red, and I was like, "What is this?" Did I get leprosy? I don't know. So.
Oh, that would be a little scary. Yeah, wake up and not really know what had eaten up your legs a little bit too. So you have also you go, as I said, you're very prolific. You go back and forth. You do film and you do TV. So let's talk a little bit about, for you. What do you prefer? Do you prefer television, or do you prefer films, or the combination, or do you just like the variety? What's for you? What really is your passion?
I mean, when I did my when I did a Grindhouse movie when I first started, and that got picked up by E1 and did very well. And so I got an opportunity to direct a show for Showtime, and Dean Cain came in, and we had all these producers, and they were trying to wine and dine and everything. And Dean comes over to me. He's like, "Let's grab a drink." And we had a drink. And he sits down and he goes, "Look, man, He's like, you're the only filmmaker in the room. And it's true. It's to heart. I just enjoy the process. I love the process, and I think that's really what drives me day to day. You know, I mean, I think some people get into film for fame, some people for money. I'm in it because I'm passionate about it. I love the process, and so when it comes to and that you could argue maybe that's my downfall or my success, you know, is because I love all types of films. I love comedies. I love Christmas movies, you know, and I don't you know, so when a project comes to me, it's not always about, well, who's in it, you know, what's the budget. It's more about, is it a good story, you know, am I telling a really good story that people are going to find, you know, funny, action packed, interesting, engaging, you know. And so that's where I start. That's where my, you know, process starts when I look at scripts. I mean, I get handed a lot of scripts, but you know, so that's really it. And even the TV films that I do, which I coin my day job, because it's, you know, I have 4 kids and I still have to make a living. So, you know, and it's like, you know, so, and I enjoy doing them, but those I get sent, you know, probably 3 or 4 scripts a week. And out of those, I'll pick, you know, one, you know, because I want something that, again, is going to engage the audience. And I can look at it and go, okay, oh, this is a different, because TV movies are regurgitated. And so when you get something different, it's like Women Trapped on an Island. Okay, well, that's something different and cool that we can do. And so, you know, so that's really what I look for.
Great that you like so many variety, like you like a lot of variety, so you haven't been pigeonholed as a director in one kind of genre over another.
Yeah, I almost did. I was close to being the Christmas guy. I was real close to that. I had done I think 7 or 8 Christmas movies back to back, and then I did one for Universal, and I had a really close friend of mine who's a producer, Canadian producer, Kirk. He came to me and was like, he's like, Brian, we got to get you an action film. I do not want you to get pigeonholed. And so he's the one that put together the second for me. And I couldn't be more appreciative, because that's where that's where I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to be in the action thriller market. And you know, and so to get there was awesome, because I was, you know, I started hearing the rumblings of the Christmas guy, and I was like, I love Christmas. I was son born on Christmas, but I don't want to make just Christmas movies, you know. So
You were born on Christmas?
no, my son Tyler was born on
Okay.
Christmas. Yeah, so I have a Christmas baby. But
Ah. That's fun. That's got to be exciting too. Yeah, it's interesting how you were also you were the Arizona Filmmaker of the Year. So let's talk a bit about that. How did that come about?
I just done I'd done a film called Blood Moon Rising, which was which got picked up by E1, and it was like this zombie grindhouse. Again, it was a type of film where it was like, okay, I have $50,000. I can't do Marvel. Let's do something very, you know, I want to do something cool and simple. So I did a grindhouse-esque type film, you know, very like silly, over the top, you know, fun kind of zombie flick. And it did very well. And so then I got picked up to do a Showtime film called Dirty Little Trick. And I filmed both of these in Arizona. And after the Showtime film came out, well, actually, we premiered it at the Phoenix Film Festival. And when it premiered at the Phoenix Film Festival, those guys were like, hey, you know, you should come to the after party. And I was like, okay. And then they gave me the award, and I was, and it was a shock, a surprise. You know, I didn't expect it, and you know, and but I've continued to carry the torch, and you know, it was nice. This last weekend, I got to be on Good Morning Arizona, and you know, so it's fun. It's always fun going back to the hometown, and they're, you know, they celebrate your success. I mean, that's always a lot of fun.
Very exciting for you. Where can people see Pursuit? Because they should seek it out. It's a fun ride.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, Pursuits on Vudu, Apple TV, any kind of on-demand streaming service. It'll be on the actual streamers in a couple of months, but for now, it's kind of the rental. It's still in some theaters. I think it's in theaters for another week, so you can catch it in theaters. There's about 30 of them around the country, and yeah, I mean it's if you've got Apple TV, an iPhone, or anything, you can
You
find
can
it.
you can find Pursuit. Let's wish you much success with this film and look forward to having you back on to talk about the Golden State Killer. And thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. If you have missed any of the Jan Price shows all about movies, you can go to my website, thejanpriceshow.com, where all the shows are archived. Also, you can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, the iHeart Podcast Network, Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it, we are there. Also, go to our YouTube channel. And while you're there, subscribe and like us. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Jan Price Show. Thank you all for listening.